who won the debate last week, and it's kind of up to who you think won. That's the thing. You see, that's kind of the point of the debate, is that there's not really any definitive winner. It depends on who you ask. That's kind of the thing with the debate. That's why they're there. That's what they're designed for. But for some odd reason, people want some sort of definitive, definite answer from some credible source as to who won the debate. I don't know why, because debates aren't really there for that purpose. I mean, they are, but not that much. Like when you go to a debate, you're not going there so that CNN can tell you who won. For instance, let's think about this on a local scale. Let's say that you go to a debate between someone who's running for sheriff on the Democratic side and someone who's running for sheriff on the Republican side. Let's assume they care about parties. Okay? So you got two people who are running for sheriff in this particular instance. And you go to the debate and you watch them debate, and there are questions that are asked, and there's a moderator, and it's normal stuff. Okay, cool. And then afterward, you don't draw your own conclusions, and instead you wait for, let's say in this case, Times Free Press or even Hot News Talk Radio to come out with who won the debate. Well, who cares what they think? It's about you, right? You're the one who's voting. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It matters what you think. It really does, because if you're the one voting, you are the one who matters to yourself, right? And the person who you are voting for is the one who matters. So this whole question of who won the debate seems to be kind of up in the air, because it's kind of designed to be. This is to create contention. This is to create argument between people, and it does, and it works really well when you have two parties, especially, clashing constantly and saying our candidate won, no, our candidate won. Of course, the Republicans are going to say Trump won, and of course, the Democrats are going to say Hillary won, because this is what they do. This is Best Shot here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. Number to call in is 423-800-8949. That's 423-800-8949 is the number to call in here at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We're always here at hotnewstalkradio.com. Actually, Noogaradio.com is, again, another great way to listen to us, Noogaradio.com, and we are live streaming right now on Facebook. In fact, the Honorable David Tulis is live streaming alongside me. He's not actually here in the room, but he is live streaming his own investigation into a matter regarding the police. So if you would rather watch that, and you're watching me live on Facebook right now, just know that he is live on Facebook right now as well. So if you want to switch over that, cool. We both get views, and it's all good. David Tulis is coming up Monday, by the way, from 9 to 11. David Tulis will be on the air again. Thank goodness we missed him, and it's going to be great to have him back here on Hot News Talk Radio. David Tulis is live right now on Facebook, I believe. Yes, on Facebook, he's live streaming, so you can watch his video now, or you can watch it later, or you can watch his video now and watch this one on Facebook later. So it's all good. It doesn't matter. You can watch on Facebook, Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook. We are live streaming right now through the power of high technology. Facebook on Hot News Talk Radio. So definitely check that out. It's our main streaming hub. We're also on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and search for Hot News Talk Radio, and you can see us streaming live there as well. And if you want my opinion about the debate, in case you do, I don't know why you would, but in case you want my opinion about the debate, I think it's sort of a toss-up, again, because I think Trump messed up a lot, and I think Clinton didn't really push herself very well in terms of convincing people that she is trustworthy. Because with Clinton, I have no reason to trust her. And with Trump, to be quite fair, there's not a whole lot of reason to trust him either if you want to look at it purely objectively, right? Like, has he proven himself to be trustworthy yet? Well, no, because he's not a politician, right? He can't, because he's not done anything in office yet. That's kind of how it works. You got to wait and see, I guess, with him. With Clinton, there's a pretty clear track record of, not being truthful. But the odd thing about the debate, were you watching it, I think it was just last week or earlier this week, if you were watching the debate, you may have noticed that Lester Holt, the moderator, didn't really mention the emails at all, the Clinton emails. They really didn't get mentioned at all, which seemed a little bit strange to me. It would be only fair to ask a hard question to Hillary and to ask a tough question towards Trump as well. Like, say, bring up how Trump talked bad about Rosie O'Donnell. That's a tough question. He's got to answer for that, because he doesn't look so good when that happens, although I don't know anyone who actually likes Rosie O'Donnell, but go figure. So let's say they bring up that about him, and then they ask Clinton about the emails, or they ask Trump about his tax returns. That's a pretty heavy-hitting subject right now. And they ask Clinton about the emails. It seems only fair, but no one really asked Clinton about the emails. And that seems a little bit strange because that's kind of the biggest issue regarding Hillary Clinton right now. She was speaking before the FBI trying to defend herself, and she almost could have gone to jail, but we're going to sort of ignore that and not talk about it. You have a presidential candidate who very well could have been indicted on criminal charges by the FBI. It didn't happen, and we knew it wouldn't, but still, it could have very easily happened. So why wasn't that talked about at all? I don't know. Seems a little bit strange. And then you see all this stuff online about, was Clinton in on the questions? Was she signaling to Lester Holt by scratching her nose? I don't know. Politicians are messed up. Politics itself is messed up. The whole concept of a presidential election is kind of messed up. Just everything about what we're having right now is, kind of strange when you think about it. The fact that we're resting the fate of our country, at least when it comes to international and monetary policy, on two individuals, and they're both a little bit out there. No matter what you think about either one of them, you have to admit that they're a little bit out there, right? Like if you're a big old Trump supporter, that's cool, but you got to admit, and they proudly do, that Trump is kind of out there. And if you're a Clinton supporter, you got to admit she's kind of out there in a lot of ways. She's not particularly endearing. And Trump does have that going for him. He does have the endearment factor because he is, to a lot of people, very likable. Clinton, I don't know anyone who actually says that they really like her personally. Aside from Huma Abedin, I guess she probably likes her pretty well. And maybe you just have to get to know her or something. But I don't know, man. Clinton seems a little bit just dirty for my liking. She seems a little bit dirty for my liking. I don't know. There's something about her that just sets me the wrong way. There's something about her where I'd be kind of afraid to talk to her, because you'd be afraid that you'd wind up dead tomorrow if you did. If you have a quiet sit down with Clinton on an airplane or something, assuming she would ride the same airplane as a lowly peasant like me, and you talk to her and you say, so, Clinton, what's the deal with the emails anyway? Would you turn up dead the next day? I kind of get that feeling with her. With Trump, you just get angry tweets. With Clinton, it feels like you get dead. And that doesn't seem to be the best person to elect as president, someone who you're legitimately afraid might kill people and may have killed people. I don't know, man. Seems a little bit, like I say, out there to me. Well, there's a lot going on regarding the debate. There's still talking about it in the news. It's still in the news cycle. In fact, right now on television, they're talking about the debate and they're still showing footage from it. So obviously, it's kind of a big deal. And this is only the first of, I think, 3 debates that are going to happen between Clinton and Trump. Now, the debates are not the be-all, end-all, which is kind of the funny thing. The debates are not the be-all, end-all when it comes to the election. They're really not. They are important, but they aren't the end of the world. Because unless Trump messes up horribly, or unless Clinton, passes out or something, it's probably not going to affect the numbers that much. That's kind of the weird thing about it. I was talking to my friend about the debates the other day, and we were talking about the Republican debates. If you remember when the primaries were going on, and they were talking about who was going to be nominated and all these sorts of things, it seemed like the debates were there not for you to decide which candidate you liked. It was there so you could decide which candidate you didn't like, if that makes any sense. It's not there for positive affirmation. It's there for negative affirmation. Think about this. You had the whole deal with Marco Rubio repeating himself and sweating a lot, and it just seemed kind of weird. And he got thrown under the bus for that. Marco Rubio was out. And he seems like a good guy. But Marco Rubio was thrown out. And then you had Ted Cruz, who, he had the whole stigma around Ted Cruz. He's a little bit creepy looking. He had the whole thing with the tonsil stone that flew out of his mouth, which was a little bit strange. There was just all the deals with him looking kind of weird. And people made fun of him for it at the debates, and he got thrown out. He was no longer in the running. He was the top contender, but he eventually had to concede to Donald Trump in the end because Donald Trump is an expert at public image. That's the interesting thing. He's very good at public image because he's been in PR. He's done marketing all of his life. Republicans and Democrats, they do that, but not to the same degree that a businessman does. And that doesn't mean that Trump is more qualified necessarily as a president, but it does mean he's definitely more qualified as a campaigner. His campaign, anyone will admit, has been genius. His campaign has used some of the most amazing campaign strategies I've ever seen in my life, even looking back at past elections where they're kind of close, but the marketing has been crazy. And the marketing style has been really different too. Trump is all about pulling up Trump. Trump is all about making himself look better with his campaigns. Clinton's campaigns and her PACs as well have been all about tearing other people down or disagreeing with other people strenuously. If you look at Correct the Record, which is her online campaign, which no one wants to talk about Correct the Record, but it's a really kind of nefarious entity that exists only to argue with people online who disagree with Hillary Clinton. It's called Correct the Record. That seriously is what they do. So say there's a Reddit post in r/the Donald that talks about r/the Donald. It's the underscore Donald. It's a Reddit subreddit. Imagine there's a post on there that says something about Clinton doing this or that they don't like. Well, Correct the Record would have someone come in and correct the record on that. They'd come in and say, well, actually, Clinton has done such and such during her career, and she's the most qualified president, and yada, yada. And they'll probably be more subtle about it, but that is something that really does happen online. It's scary, but it really is a real thing that really does happen on the internet. It's frightening, I know, but it really happens and has been happening for a long, long time. Usually it was people they would hire to write into newspapers. Now it's people they hire to write about stuff on the internet, which is a lot cheaper than writing into the newspapers and requires a lot fewer man hours too. So it's all really an interesting conundrum that we have ourselves in, where you have Clinton, whose campaign is mostly based on ads that are attacking Trump, and Trump, whose campaign is mostly based on not so much ads, but rhetoric that builds him up and makes him look better than everyone else. So she's about tearing people down. He's about bringing himself up in a lot of ways. Now, not exclusively, but that is the general message, is that Trump is great, and Clinton's message is that Trump is bad. Now, both messages are about Trump either way, so he's still getting exposure, and that's kind of the genius part about it. Again, with the health thing, with the Clinton health scandal, where there's no question that she's not particularly healthy, but the extent to which she is unhealthy is still sort of up in the air. Is she mentally ill, or does she just have a small cough? Yeah, it's to that degree. So I don't know. She doesn't look particularly healthy to me, but I don't know. Yeah, nobody does except for her, the CIA, maybe, the Secret Service, definitely, her aides, maybe, not aides like that, but her people who help her, and maybe Bill. I don't know if you would tell Bill, but maybe Bill. So, yeah, she's a little bit, possibly unhealthy, but people have been talking about it. And that's exactly the problem. She's had to defend herself against claims that she is unhealthy. That's interesting to me, because she's had to defend herself against these claims, meaning that it has at least made some kind of impact. If she's talking about it, it must be important to some degree. So that's the genius of the campaign that we see here, where Trump is talking about, oh, look at Clinton's health, look at Clinton's health. And there are people online saying, look at Clinton's health, look at Clinton's health. And then she feels the need to talk about it. That's the genius of it, because she doesn't have to say anything at all, positive or negative, about her health. She just needs to mention it, because now this raises doubt in people's minds about, is she really healthy or not? Because she has to tell people that she is. I don't have to tell people that I'm a healthy guy. People can mostly tell, for the most part, that I'm not, keeling over or anything. When I'm sick, I'm really obviously sick. And I can sympathize with Clinton on that. When I'm sick, I'm really, really obviously sick. But when I'm healthy, I'm normal looking. She looks kind of frail a lot of the time. Now, that could be attributed to her older age. She's not a young pup anymore. Most of us aren't. But she's having to defend herself against these claims that she's unhealthy. And that is the kicker, isn't it? That really is the kicker. It's very interesting. This campaign is crazy. This whole election cycle is crazy. And to make matters even more interesting, just like they thought they couldn't get more interesting, well, they can. Now you have a potential financial crisis that we're on the heels of right now. And to make matters even more interesting, there's a hurricane that's going to be hitting Jamaica here soon that may possibly brush against the East Coast. These are two very important things that both candidates are going to have to talk about before November. They're going to have to respond to it, and they're going to have to look very presidential in the process. And if they don't, it's over. Whoever looks the least presidential during these events, it's over for them. Now, Clinton, we know, is good at miming being president, right? Because she's been in politics basically forever. So she's good at looking like a politician. But is she good at looking presidential? Is she good at looking strong? We'll have to wait and see. We know Trump is good at looking strong, but is he good at looking presidential? We'll have to wait and see. You see how it works out. It's all very, very interesting to me because it's it's a mind game, and all of politics are mind games. But this is the big mind game, right? And every 4 years, we get the big mind game that we have to play, and we have to watch them play it with each other. Because if you make yourself aware of what they're trying to do to you mentally, what kind of effect politicians are trying to have on you mentally, then it's a lot more fun to watch the elections because you get to see them go through the motions of looking like they're really strong. And we have an immense amount of sympathy for the people of Jamaica, and they have to make statements like that. Is it going to be condensed down to an angry tweet, or is it going to be an eloquent speech? Is it going to look strong? Is it going to look weak? Is it going to look sick? Is it going to look healthy? These are all questions that are going to be answered as soon as they happen. They haven't happened yet. We're getting a very brief glimpse into the future, and it's very exciting stuff. This election is probably one of the most exciting I've ever seen, that's for sure, and it's probably one of the most exciting of the last maybe even 50 years. I mean, think about it. Carter and Reagan, okay, that was interesting, I guess, but it wasn't like the new Renaissance or anything like that. Carter was bad, and everybody knew it, and Reagan was untested in politics for the most part, and everyone knew it. Aside from the fact that he was, pretty prominent politician in California, he wasn't tested on the national stage or the international stage, which you have to be when you run for president. So it was a very interesting election. But then things got boring, more and more boring after the Reagan election. Everything got really boring because you had George Bush versus whoever he ran against. I don't remember. And then he had Bill Clinton against whoever he ran against. I don't remember. And then he had the Bush election where he was running against Al Gore. Now, that was a close one, and that was interesting, but not nearly as interesting as this one because they're both stuffed suits. George W. Bush and Al Gore, they're both stuffed suits, and we all know it. They're politicians, and they've been politicians for 500 million years. They've all been in the game. They know exactly how it works. They're just playing out the motions at this point. It's not fun to watch them because they're not free radicals. You know what they're going to do every time because they're good at doing it. They've been doing it for years. And then you had Obama versus McCain, and that was a disaster for McCain. And you had Obama versus Mitt Romney, and that was, again, another disaster because Mitt Romney didn't exactly resonate with anyone who had any sort of resonance. Mitt Romney didn't resonate with anybody. He was boring. He was white bread to the extreme, and he was Mormon, which nothing against Mormons for the most part, but that really does set you apart from most of America. That's like if I was Zoroastrian and I tried to run for president. People don't know about Zoroastrians, and people don't know what that means. Same goes for Mormon. When people hear Mormon, they think, aren't those weird guys that live out in Utah? They're not thinking about what it means or who he is. They're just thinking that that's kind of weird, and that's not what you want when you're running for president. So this election, my goodness, this election is really interesting. And I think it is one of the most interesting elections. It's definitely the most interesting election I've ever seen. And the most interesting election, perhaps, of the last 50 years, and maybe even the next 50 years, if there are the next 50 years after this election. Who knows? We could all die in nuclear fire, or the sun could implode and kill us all, or there could be an asteroid, or Planet X could crash into us, or all sorts of crazy things could happen. Like the Bible says, you don't know the day or the hour. And I think that really is true with a lot of our predictions in the future. It applies to not just the second coming, but it does apply to pretty much everything. You don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And things could drastically change tomorrow. We could wake up tomorrow and there be a financial crisis. I was expecting to wake up today and see the Dow was down and Deutsche Bank was flatlining. That's how things looked yesterday. And maybe that'll happen tomorrow, or maybe that'll happen this afternoon. But that's going to be a big deal for whoever's running for president. And again, keep your eye on the weather. That's an interesting and important thing to look at right now. Keep your eye on the weather because you have hurricanes moving in. There's one that's going to be hitting Jamaica, and we haven't had a hurricane in the United States in something like 2,000 days. Yeah. This is going to be something that the president-elect, or the person who's running for president, and the current president too, how he responds is important. They're all going to have to react to it. And it's going to be a big debacle, and the current media is going to tear everyone to pieces. They're tearing Donald Trump to pieces in ways that I think are a little bit unfair when it comes to modern media. Because it seems like, Clinton's barely getting touched when it comes to especially internet media with the mainstream stuff like BuzzFeed, where Clinton, the ground she walks on is worshipped, and Trump is the next Hitler. And those seem like both kind of unfair things, because Clinton is not the second coming for sure, but Trump is also not, Hitler all over again. Bad as you might think he is, he's not calling for the extermination of anybody. We can all kind of understand that he's not calling for the extermination of anybody. I don't know, man. This election is going to be a whole big debacle. The number to call in here is 423-800-8949 here at Hot News Talk Radio, 423-800-8949. We'll be taking your calls in just a few minutes here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com.
The Tennessee Vols face off with the Florida Gators.
Florida Gators.
Saturday at 3 p.m. It's Gridiron Madness. The Gators and Vols pound each other. This Saturday at 3.
Saturday at 3.
Catch all the action live here at AM 1240. Hot News Talk Radio.
1240 AM 1240. Hot News Talk Radio. With your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest.
Hot News Talk 1240.
All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Golden Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Diesel Off-Road Technology Soddy Daisy for your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hickson. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
I love NASCAR.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Police in Catoosa County are trying to find a defendant after they say he skipped bond and ran away after he was accused of sexual exploitation of a child and computer pornography. He pleaded guilty to the charges in Catoosa County Court, and he was allowed to remain on bond on the condition that he surrender himself to the Catoosa County Jail on September the 23rd. Well, he didn't, and now he's on the run. It started out as a routine traffic stop on Hickson Pike, but ended with a plethora of drug charges. The car was pulled over for a traffic violation, and the policeman said he smelled marijuana. He conducted a search of the car and found multiple pills, including hydrocodone, oxymorphone, oxycodone, and several more, including a digital scale. We have good news for Chattanooga drivers. While traffic fatalities are on a significant increase in the state, in the city of Chattanooga, they're actually on a decline. Chattanooga police say this is due to increased patrols and education of the public. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Martin Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocked him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
We're at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Yes, sir. 2 orders of nachos with beef and beans, 2 beers. Chattanooga loves its Amigos restaurants, but the Amigos in Hickson has something extra. NASCAR. Every race. How about a house wine? Really good. Big name beers, just tell Maria what you want. And here at Amigos, margaritas are popular, and it's only $3 all day. If you come here on a race day, Sunday, a Natty Light is only $2.25. Here at Amigos, just during NASCAR, Natty Light, $2.25. Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson. The happy hour is 3 to 9 today and every day. I'd say the atmosphere is festive. Look at that huge TV. It's like being amid the fans under a bright sun, but no gasoline fumes, no heat. Stay cool. Quench your thirst. Amigos between Staples and Hobby Lobby. Take the next table to mine. Enjoy the NASCAR race with friend or family here at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Okay, get started.
Drivers, start your engines.
Rubber's tough, but foam rubber is soft.
Foam rubber is the star at Stuff It Upholstery, which uses it to revive your couch, your embarrassing easy chair, your boat seat cushions. Stuff It Foam Rubber in Hickson covers Chattanooga and surrounding areas. Don't throw out that favorite easy chair that's grown haggard and barbaric. New life for your seat cushions. Premium auto-grade rubber foam for your restaurant, church, or business. Stuff It Upholstery brings comfort and relief. Go ahead, skid away from flat, dull, and droopy cushions. Relax, restore, revive. When comfort matters, stuff it. Mention Monica Lewinsky. Get 10 cents off on the dollar. 877-1616. That's 877-1616.
Here's what advertisers are saying about AM 1240. HotNewsTalkRadio.com.
Radio station, they really care. They're always calling me probably once a week, checking on me, seeing how things going, see if they want to change any of the ads or do anything different, seeing what my needs are. I've gotten business off the ads that you do for me, and seems to be working well at this point.
Prices were very fair. Areas in this town that we aren't able to get other ways, your radio station is able to help us out, and I really appreciate that.
We've been very pleased with the services we've got. It seems like everybody over there cares about what they're going to do, how it's going to work for us on this end. And we've been very impressed with the creativity of the ads that we've heard. And they always seem to be right on point, even without us having to come up with what's going to be said.
I've been doing business with News Talk Radio for quite some time. It's the best place and the best value you can get for your advertisement. The commercials are great. They're very professional. I was actually blown away.
The commercial that they put together was awesome. It was way far above all the other radio stations we've dealt with. The best we've had yet, guarantee you, by far.
AM 1240 HotNewsTalkRadio.com gets results. Let us get results for your business. For no obligation free consultation, call General Sales Manager Steve Johnson. Call 423-240-5459. That's 240-5459. Or you can always email Steve at NougaRadioSteve@gmail.com. That's NougaRadioSteve@gmail.com. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We get results.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You might be familiar with BuzzFeed. It's that website that people share stuff from. It's about, top 10s and crap like that. Top 10 reasons why you should vote for Hillary Clinton that you won't believe. Stuff that gets shared from BuzzFeed. It's supposedly a news source, but I've not really seen any good, hard-hitting news come out of BuzzFeed in ever. But maybe I'm just jaded. Maybe I'm just prejudiced. Who knows? But nevertheless, BuzzFeed has been getting a lot of attention recently because of a poll that showed up on their website that was showing up in the midst of the debate, as in, I think, a few hours before the debate it showed up. And the poll was asking who won the debate. Not who won the debate, I apologize, but who are you going to vote for in the coming election? That was the question. And who won the debate is just stuck in my head because everyone's asking that question. Of course, the answer is neither, because it's all up to you who won the debate. It's all in your head. But, and that's not a joke. It really is. But the question was from BuzzFeed, who will you be voting for in the upcoming United States presidential election? Donald Trump got 97% of the vote. Now, that's 11.5 million votes. And other got 161.0 thousand votes. Hillary Clinton got 70.3 thousand votes. Yeah, not exactly overwhelming for Hillary Clinton, but it was kind of rigged. Now, it's all for fun, and it's all a joke because everyone knows BuzzFeed is crap, but it was rigged. The election, or not election, sorry, but the poll on BuzzFeed was rigged because no one takes BuzzFeed seriously, and there's not a whole lot of reason to take BuzzFeed seriously. That's the funny thing. Why? It's a top 10 website. Like I can understand if it was the New York Times or something and the poll was rigged on there, you'd be kind of annoyed. But it's BuzzFeed. It's BuzzFeed. It's a site that shares cat pictures, man. It's not like a hard-hitting news site. It's not like it's the hardest-hitting investigative journalist entity in the world. It's below Vice magazine. And Vice puts out some decent stuff a lot of the time. But think about it. Vice started out as a funny little magazine for, cuisine and travel and skateboarding and just fun, 20-something stuff. And it was cool. And it still is pretty cool sometimes. And BuzzFeed was sort of the same way, but it was for adolescents and old people. And now, for some reason, the people at BuzzFeed fancy themselves to be political analysts. And it's not working out too well for them because, again, no one takes them seriously. Vice has had a gradual progression into where it is now. BuzzFeed is just suddenly we are politics now. And there's next to no reason for it other than the admins over at BuzzFeed seem to be butthurt SJWs, which is not surprising because it's BuzzFeed. It's a bunch of, millennials. Who cares about them? Seriously, who cares about them? Their opinion doesn't matter. Plus, when you think about it, the poll is not open to people who are 18 years of age or older. So, and as far as I know, it's not open to just people in the United States. So you could have a bunch of, butthurt Germans on there who are like, no, if we don't want Donald Trump to win the election because he might harm the European Union. So they hit, Hillary Clinton or the other guy who's running, or Dianne Stein. Who's the one who's running for the Green Party? Jill Stein. They could vote for Jill Stein. I was thinking of Dianne Steinbeck or something. That's not right. Jill Stein running for the Green Party. I really do know what I'm talking about, I promise. And Gary Johnson running for the Libertarian Party. And, if you vote for Johnson or for Jill Stein, that's cool. You can do that, and that's all right. It's your vote, and it's your choice, and you can do what you want. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But it is kind of interesting to me how people will just utterly demonize anyone who votes for a third party. If you vote for a third party, you're just contributing to the problem. If you vote for a third party, it's just you're lower than scum. You're worse than a Democrat. I don't really get that. And I'm not one to vote anyway, but I think it is kind of strange. But the BuzzFeed poll was flawed anyway from the get-go because you could vote even though you weren't an American, as far as I know. You could vote even though you're under 18, which you can't do normally. So there's next to no reason to trust any of the numbers on that poll. There's no reason to trust it. That's why half the online polls don't work because, again, those criteria are there. Now, there is something interesting that was pointed out the other day about the election going on with the who won the debate. Everyone was talking about who won the debate. Well, on Twitter, everyone seemed to agree that Trump won the debate because the Trump won hashtag was going crazy. Of course, the funny thing is with hashtags, people who disagree will still use the hashtag, and it still skyrockets because people who agree and disagree are using the same hashtag, so it still gets put up in the polls. A little bit weird, but yeah. No, and I was reading the other day about how that number or that hashtag may have originated from Russia. Uh-oh, here go the Russians again, interfering with our dang election. What is it with these Russians and getting involved with our election? It's not like, Americans never get involved with other countries' elections. Never. So it's just shocking that other countries would get involved with America's election. That is shocking as well. It's all a mess. Politics are a mess. Everyone knows politics are a mess. And we're taking it way too seriously a lot of the time, I think. But the BuzzFeed poll says undoubtedly from MRC TV, which I have no idea what website that is. But MRC TV says undoubtedly BuzzFeed also did this figuring that the poll would have a strong showing for Hillary Clinton, obviously, because liberals use BuzzFeed, giving the site's tendency to openly criticize her opponent. That, however, didn't turn out to be the case. The results were, again, 97% for Donald Trump. But the election was rigged by some folks online. And that's the thing with these polls. They don't matter because you can rig them online. I'm not angry at the people for rigging the poll vote because it's a stupid vote anyway. Think about it. What if anyone from anywhere could vote in the United States election? That would be stupid, wouldn't it? What if you could be a non-citizen and vote for the United States election? That would be stupid. But what if you're not even in the United States and you can vote in the election? And what if you can organize a bunch of friends to start spamming the U.S. election so that you inflate someone's numbers? That's basically how the polls work right now in the political world. They're crap and everyone knows it. They really are. Everyone knows who's serious about politics. They know the polls are nonsense when they're online, but for some reason, they still use them in the news and act like it's a whole big deal. But really, polls don't mean a whole lot because if you remember the Reagan election, it looked like Reagan was definitely going to lose it, and then he won by a landslide. So you just never know with polls. We like to pretend that we know things, but you really don't. It's like ratings in the radio. We like to pretend that if you get ratings and if you poll numbers, you're successful, but it's not about numbers, it's about results. That's what matters in politics. It's not about what numbers you're pulling or how well you're doing with this demographic. It's about what you're getting done. That's what matters in every respect, in every occupation ever. It doesn't mean numbers are fine, but it matters what you're doing. And sometimes numbers and actions correlate, but not all the time. And in politics, they usually don't. It's interesting. But that's the state of the current election, and that's why BuzzFeed is terrible. But everyone who's serious in news knows that. And BuzzFeed will not, in the next year anyway, be considered a serious news source, hopefully, by anyone. It's obviously biased, just like I'm obviously biased, right? It's obviously biased. And it's obviously not exactly the most unbiased news source of all time. You know what I mean? It's like going to Breitbart and expecting a fair criticism of Clinton. You're not going to get it because they're biased over there. It's like going to CNBC and expecting a unbiased view of Donald Trump. You're not going to get it because they're liberals over there. You know, it's how it works. That's how politics works. That's how the news works. News is always biased. It's just which bias you want to watch. Fox is biased. CNN is biased. They're all biased. It's just which bias do you want to tune into. That's politics. That's media. This is America. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. You can get us on the TuneIn Radio app on your smartphone. That's TuneIn Radio on your smartphone. You can listen to us streaming live anywhere in the world on your smartphone on the TuneIn Radio app. And also, by the way, you can get us on Noogaradio.com. Go to Noogaradio.com. You can listen to us streaming live there and call in. I would invite you to call in at 423-800-8949. Numbers 423-800-8949 is the number to call in here at Hot News Talk Radio. If you'd like to share your thoughts about anything ever, you can call in at 423-800-8949. Hurricane Matthew is set to arrive 4,000 days after the last major hurricane. It's going to be seriously and severely affecting the South Central Caribbean area. So a lot of humanitarian aid is going to be required for those in Jamaica. And of course, your prayers are always appreciated for our friends in the Caribbean. But Hurricane Matthew, with its 105 mile per hour sustained winds, is now over South Central Caribbean. It is expected to strengthen into a major hurricane today or tomorrow, and possibly even make landfall somewhere on the East Coast around next Thursday. If it does, Matthew's landfall would occur exactly 4,000 days after Major Hurricane Wilma's landfall. Wilma, like from the Flintstones, Wilma, the last major hurricane, Category 3 or stronger, to hit the U.S., struck Florida October the 24th, 2005. Will Matthew arrive as the first major hurricane to strike the U.S. in almost 11 years? Only time will tell. Hurricane Sandy was a Category 1, and we know what kind of damage it did. That was a mess. So what would a Category 3 do? Now, hopefully, it's not severe, and hopefully nobody dies. That's a vain hope, I know, but it is a hope that we should have anyway. Hopefully, and prayerfully, nobody dies. Because the last thing we want to see is someone dying because of a weather event. That's something that you can't predict. It's something that comes out of nowhere. It's something that you can't escape from, and it kills you. And it's terrifying. We experienced that here with the hurricanes, the tornadoes, where people in my neighborhood, I live in Ringgold, people in my neighborhood, I know people who had their homes swept away from them in just the space of a day. Just boom, gone. Your house is gone. Your neighborhood's gone. The restaurants you used to go to are gone. It's a terrifying thing. And it's a scary thing to come back home to after you've been on vacation. That's what happened to me. I was blessed to be elsewhere when it was happening. And I feel almost a little bit of survivor's guilt over that, actually. But I was in Florida when the tornadoes happened here in Ringgold and in Chattanooga. And man, it was just horrifying to come back home and see all these businesses you're used to seeing and seeing billboards twisted in half. And my friend and I volunteered I think it was the next week to clear off brush and stuff from people's houses. And man, it was, that was just weird to see people's houses smashed like that and helping them out, pulling away branches and stuff. And it wasn't just, I'm not putting myself up by saying that. I'm not saying, look how great I am. I volunteered. Everyone did. Everyone in the community seemed to come together to volunteer to help other people, and that was really an amazing thing. It's just amazing how down here, and maybe it's an American thing, but down here we really do band together in time of crisis. It seems like we'll always put aside our differences no matter what, and come together whenever there's a major crisis happening. It's just amazing to see, and you don't want to have to see it. Because when that's happening, something really bad has happened. But when it does happen, it really is a miraculous and glorious thing. And it does show the goodwill between men here and women, of course, here in the Tennessee Valley. It really is an amazing thing. So I'm sure that goodwill will be shown during the next crisis, whatever that may be. Is it financial? Is it going to be biological? Is it going to be ecological? Is it going to be this hurricane here? We don't know. There's a particular model forecast that keeps Matthew offshore of Cape Hatteras. I believe I'm saying that right. The large uncertainty in just where Matthew will track is reflected in the latest ensemble of forecasts made by the ECMWF model, and all the different models seem to show it just off the coast of the United States, but it could very easily get blown into the U.S., and it looks like the southern tip of Florida and the Keys could be affected rather severely. And so this could be a major problem if it hits the U.S. Now, it's going to be a major problem when it hits the Caribbean, too. Let's not forget our friends in the Caribbean, because it could really affect real people, real lives in, say, Haiti and Cuba. And I know we don't like the Cubans, but it could affect people in Cuba, and they are real people there, regardless of politics. And not everyone there is a communist. The government is bad, but that doesn't mean the people are. Just look at ours and look at us, right? Our government's terrible, but we're pretty cool. Maybe it's like that in Cuba, too. Well, this is just coming out from the Wall Street Journal. Hackers have infected an army of DVRs for massive internet attacks. That's right. And webcams, too. Hackers have used an army of hijacked security cameras and video recorders to launch several massive internet attacks last week, prompting fresh concern about the vulnerability of millions of so-called smart devices in homes and businesses connected to the internet. The assaults raised eyebrows among security experts, both for their size and for the machines that made them happen. The attackers used as many as 1 million Chinese-made security cameras, digital video recorders, and other infected devices to generate web page requests and data that knocked their targets offline. This is called a directed denial of service attack, or DDoS, or DDoS, depending on who you ask. But basically what happens is when this happens, you're sending zillions of requests to a website, so much so that it just can't handle it. Think about this. What if you have a mailbox, all right, and you start to get a few letters? You don't really care. You get a few letters, you open them, you read them, you put them away. And let's imagine that you have this obsessive compulsive disorder where you must read every letter you get. That's not really a big deal for everyday mail. But what if you get millions of letters in the mail? You're going to be hung up reading those letters for a long, long time. That's basically what happens with these computers, to really simplify it. That's basically what happens to these computers when an attack like that happens. And it's a monstrous thing for network administrators to have to deal with. Now, fortunately, I'm not a network administrator. I'm not even a programmer, so I don't have to deal with that kind of thing. But I know a lot of people, most of my friends, are in technical fields like that, and it's a mess when it happens, let me tell you. It's a disaster. One of my very good friends does penetration testing at a rather large, prestigious company that I won't name for his sake. But he was telling me about how just DDoSes don't happen on a major scale that often, but when they do, it can fry everything. I mean, it can be a big problem. But fortunately, there are security measures that different websites can take, and there are real legitimate sort of firewalls. Not really a firewall, but there's a real sort of barrier you can put between yourself and the attacker, and it really can help you out. But if you're a network administrator, you already know about that. The assaults raised eyebrows among security experts, both for their size and for the machines that made them happen. The attackers used as many as 1 million Chinese-made security cameras, digital video recorders, and other infected devices to generate web page requests and data that knocked the targets offline. Those affected include French web hosting provider OVH and U.S. security researcher Brian Krebs, whose website was disabled temporarily, but he tweeted that he got it back online. So what's the purpose of this attack, I would like to know? Who knows? Maybe it's just for fun. It's certainly a possibility, but it seems to be perhaps more than that. I just want to point that out to you because it does permeate both politics and technology, both of which I'm a little bit well-versed in. I like to think I know a little bit about politics, and I like to think that I know quite a bit about technology. I'm not an expert on really anything. I'm just a jack of all trades and a master of none when it comes to technology. I'm above average, but that's not saying much. The average is pretty low when it comes to technology. There are a lot of people who know a lot more than I do about this kind of thing, and more power to them. You know, on the Drudge Report, I always read the Drudge Report basically every morning. I don't read every single story he posts, but I usually look at the top headline and I look at what's just going on in the world, because it gives you a basic perspective on what the general conservative consensus is with what's happening in the world right now. And I always am astounded by this. And a coworker of mine and I were talking about this the other day here at the station. How does Matt Drudge find all these horrible photos of Hillary Clinton? That's the question I want. I want the answer to that. Where does he find these awful, awful photos of Hillary Clinton? They look really bad because, you look at it and she just looks horrible. She doesn't even look human in some of the photos that you find on the Drudge Report. You're thinking, like, Clinton's not that bad looking. I mean, for an older person, she's not that bad looking. She doesn't look monstrous or anything. But then some of these photos you see, you're just like, man. And, just on her face, Clinton looks pretty good for her age, actually. But then some of these photos, man, she's just, my goodness, she's just not looking too good here. I don't know where he finds these photos. Apparently the UN really wants to stop Trump, though. Speaking of the Drudge Report, that was the top story this morning. The UN has put out a call to end Trump. Now, what if Donald Trump does end up in the United Nations? I'd like to know what exactly would happen then. What if Donald Trump ends up, he not in the United Nations as a cabinet member or anything? Like, what if Donald Trump does get elected and he goes to the United Nations and just no one likes him? That would be kind of a mess for his campaign and for just his general well-being. But UN news agencies are scrubbing tweets calling on Americans abroad to end Trump. United Nations News Center, the official UN news service, I didn't even know that was a thing, tweeted and then quickly pulled a post that called for 8 million Americans abroad to stop Trump. The tweet, published at 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, urged American expats to share a voter registration tool on the website of the activist organization Avaz that states U.S. citizens abroad could defeat Trump if they voted. The webpage, titled "The October Surprise That Will End Trump," allowed users to sign up for help registering to vote in the November the 8th presidential election, and encourages them to enlist their friends as well. It says, at a time when Trump is trying to divide us, we would help defeat him if we all share this page with everyone. Let's reach every U.S. voter abroad, it reads. And this was shared by the UN. Ari Gaetanis, chief of the UN News Services section, which oversees the Twitter account, said that it was a mistake, and the tweet did not originate from the UN News Center, and this was the reason for it being taken down. He told Politico, "We're looking into this provenance." Now, hold on. If it's tweeted by the UN News Center, either someone hacked them, which I doubt, or someone on the staff has the Twitter account and posted that without permission, which seems a lot more likely. But you notice there is a obvious vested interest in the international community to stop Trump from getting elected. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I don't like the international community at all. But I do kind of like what some might call isolationism. So if no one likes us, maybe they won't deal with us anymore. We won't have to deal with them. Hey, as long as we keep up trade agreements, I don't care. Something interesting, too, by the way, George Soros, you might be familiar with. He's not my favorite guy ever. In fact, I don't like him at all. But George Soros did something interesting. He bet against Deutsche Bank, and so did the current Rothschild. Now, that's a little bit interesting, and I think that tells you something. George Soros and Jacob Rothschild, as far as I know, have never been wrong. As much as I despise them both, they've never been wrong when it comes to finances, as far as I know. And they are both now voting against or betting against Deutsche Bank. That's interesting. Deutsche Bank, in case you don't know, is one of the largest banks in the world, and it's huge, and it's worth more, or was worth more, than Germany itself. In fact, it had more exposure than Germany's GDP. That's a lot of money that we're talking about if it crashes. Now, Deutsche Bank is now worth in the stock market less than Twitter. Yeah, that's not good at all, because it's Deutsche Bank. If Deutsche Bank goes under, this is bigger than Lehman Brothers. We could be seeing something bigger than 2008 if it goes under. Now, I don't say we will, because there are a lot of factors involved, but it going under would be as big as Lehman Brothers. Just in the international community, it would be the equivalent of that. It would be the European equivalent of the 2008 crash. So get prepared. I hope you are prepared, because one thing that is definitely going to fix our problem here locally is focusing on our locale. Worrying about international politics and worrying about international finances are worthy of your time sometimes. They're noteworthy. They're worth looking at. But it's not worth your time to focus on it so much that you forget about where you are. Where are we right now? We're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're in Cleveland, Tennessee. Maybe we're in South Pittsburgh. Maybe we're in Ringgold, Georgia. But we're all in the Tennessee Valley, right? We can all identify with that. And we can all stick together, right? I mean, we're all friends here, right? You're a cool guy. I'm a pretty cool guy. We can all hang out. So why do we worry so much about what's happening internationally, when the better thing to worry about maybe is what's happening locally? What's happening here? Do you know who's running for office coming up here soon? you know who's running for mayor? That's kind of important. Do you know who might be running for sheriff in your particular county? That's kind of important too. Who's running for sheriff in Bradley County? Who's running for sheriff in Hamilton County? The election's not here yet, but it's important to know these things and keep an eye on what's happening here. Especially the mayoral election here in Chattanooga, I think is going to be very important because Mayor Andy Burke is not exactly the most popular guy right now, but he's not exactly the most unpopular guy either. He's sort of teeter-tottering. Now, incumbents are easy to get elected in, so he doesn't have much work to do. But there's a lot that's going to be brought up during his campaign that I'm not going to mention here that could very much affect what happens with his election. There's a lot of scandal that could come up with him, and it could very well mean victory for Larry Groen or whoever else decides to throw their hat in the ring. We'll have to wait and see. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, hotnewstalkradio.com. This is Best Shot here on Hot News Talk Radio. We thank you for your time. This is Best Shot and Colin Cowherd coming up next here on Hot News Talk Radio. We got some cool ads I want you to hear.